Well, I want to thank Colin for coming here. Originally, Paul Helmke, who had been the president of the Brady campaign, had originally agreed to do it, and I guess he's left. And Colin stepped in for him, and I appreciate him doing that. You know, because of my research, I've ended up talking to literally dozens of people who have been present at the types of events that Colin has been at. And I can only say my heart goes out to people. I mean, it's hard to think of a more terrifying, more helpless situation when you're having to lie there, pretend to be dead usually, and hoping that the person's not going to kill you, when there's very little else you're going to be able to do at that particular point in time. And you know, it's hard for me to think of a more terrifying situation. I want to address some of the points that Colin's brought up. One is just the experience. I mean, we have had a number of multiple victim public shootings at schools that have been stopped. And relatively few people know that over a quarter of the public school shootings in the United States have been stopped by citizens with guns before uniformed police have been able to arrive. It's just when those events occur, they get relatively little coverage about how they actually stop. You know, there's multiple victim public shootings that have been stopped in churches and malls and other places around the country, even on city streets. And the thing is, if they're stopped without people getting killed, then it gets no coverage. And that particular part of the incident often gets only 1% or 2% of the news coverage even when it is stopped. You have Pearl, Mississippi, Edinburgh, Pennsylvania. Among a couple of the K through 12, you have Appalachian Law School in Virginia, in which it was stopped by citizens with guns. And you know, the question is, Bill Landis and I, we looked at 13 different types of gun laws, background checks included that were there, the Brady Act, other state background checks that were there. I wish it was that easy. I wish it was easy that you could just pass a background check and keep bad people from doing things. The person who shot Colin, you know, he didn't fail a background check. He passed the background check there. He hadn't been involuntarily committed at that time. Now, so how are you going to change it? You're going to make it so anybody who has any type of mental illnesses are going to lose their right to own a gun? You know, how are you know, people arrest versus conviction? The problem is, even with the rules that we have, if somebody's planning ahead, and these guys, the Norwegian killer apparently was planning ahead for years, how are you going to stop somebody like, even though they have very strict handgun regulations in Norway, it didn't stop him from being able to go and get handguns that he used in the attack there. Their handgun regulations are as strict or stricter than what we have here any place in the United States. And yet it didn't stop him from being able to do that. You know, in the background checks, you look, I don't know of any research by a criminologist or economist that's found that background checks generally, you know, in national studies looking at the Brady Act, have found drops in violent crimes nationally. I just want to mention one thing with regard to Israel. Israel has learned a lot from these types of attacks. And one of the things it's learned is that terrorists have a huge strategic advantage. You can try to put more police there, you can fix doors or do other things, but the problem is terrorists can either wait until the uniformed police or military leave the scene and then attack, or they're the first people that you go and you take out. And Israel for years kept on trying to put more police, more military on the street in order to stop it. And finally they gave up because they realized they just didn't have enough money to go and protect every possible vulnerable target that was there. And so what they did was, in the early 70s, they started letting adult Jewish citizens carry around concealed handguns at the time. Now about 15% of the adult Jewish population is able to go and carry handguns. And you'll see at that very same time a huge change in the types of terrorist attacks that occurred. I don't have time to go into it now. But you know, you want to have more regulations, you have to realize that there are trade-offs. You make it more costly, more difficult for people to go and get guns. You're going to have fewer people who are going to be able to have guns to go and protect themselves, and you're going to have less deterrence in terms of these attacks occurring. But I do greatly appreciate Colin taking the time to come here. The reason why we wanted somebody from the Brady campaign here was precisely to go and give an alternative viewpoint so we could have a discussion and dialogue. I know the last time I debated Paul Helmke at one of these things, we talked for about a half hour afterwards, and I enjoyed it. But I appreciate Colin coming. Thank you very much.